of Yahya Sinwar, the leader of Hamas, who is known as the Butcher of Khan Yunis.
I am Yahya Ibrahim Hassan Sinwar. I was born in 1962 in the Khan Yunis refugee camp in the Gaza Strip. My family were Palestinian refugees who had fled from their village near present-day Ashkelon during the 1948 Arab-Israeli War.
In June 1967, Israel was fighting against Egypt in the Six-Day War. Sinwar has taken shelter with his family from the fighting between Egypt and Israel, which they believe will end with the liberation of Palestine.
Yes, brothers, sisters, we will see how Allah will help our fighters to defeat the Zionists. They will throw the Jews into the sea.
Allahu Akbar, Allahu Akbar, Allahu Akbar, Allahu Akbar.
But it's soon clear to Sinwar that the Israelis will prevail.
Oh no, Astaghfirullah. The Israelis have seized Gaza and Sinai from Egypt, the Golan Heights from Syria, and the West Bank, including East Jerusalem from Jordan.
In Israel, there is euphoria.
Our dreams of returning to our homeland from which we were exiled began to crumble like the sandcastles we had built as children. My father also died in the fight against the Jews. Now only my mother could take care of us. This is nothing but shame and humiliation.
Sinwar was a devoted Muslim, and his hatred of the Jews is based on the anti-Semitism in the Quran. For instance, Surah Al-Baqarah, verse 61, Ali Imran, verse 112, Al-Ma'idah, verses 60, 64. He believes that the Jews have no right to live in Israel and that the land belongs only to Muslim Palestinians. But the facts show that the Jewish people have a long-standing and exclusive right to the land of Israel. Countless archaeological artifacts have been discovered that confirm the Bible's descriptions of the ancient kingdoms of Judea and Israel. Under Caliph Umar, the Muslims captured Jerusalem in 637 AD. This conquest solidified Arab control over the region. For several centuries, Arabs ruled over Israel until they were challenged by the First Crusade in 1099. Therefore, based on history, the Jews are the indigenous people of the land of Israel, and the Arab Muslims came to colonize it. Although the Quran contains many verses condemning the Jews, it also states that Israel belongs to them. In Surah Al-Ma'idah, verses 20-21, Allah commands the children of Israel to enter the Holy Land, which is Israel. Verse 21 says, "O my people, which is the children of Israel, enter the Holy Land, which is Israel, which God has ordained for you." Nowadays, most Muslims refer to the Holy Land in verse 21 as Palestine, but the Quran never mentions the name Palestine at all. Moses never took his people to Palestine. The Quran references Israel 40 times. The Holy Land in verse 21 is clearly Israel. If it were meant to be Palestine, Allah would have said so. It is evident that neither the Quran nor the Prophet Muhammad recognized Palestine as the Holy Land, suggesting that contemporary reinterpretations of these verses may serve modern political agendas.
My school friends and I would rather play Arabs and Jews than cowboys and Indians. All the Muslims in our society taught us that we are refugees because the Jews took our land. So don't tell me about the two-state solution. We want only one thing, to get rid of all the Jews into the sea, and we will not stop until we achieve it.
On October 6, 1973, a radio broadcasts the startling news that a new war has erupted. This time it is the Yom Kippur War.
Dear Muslim fighters, hear us, hear us! The Egyptians and Syrians, determined to avenge their humiliating defeat in 1967, have launched a surprise attack on the Israelis during the Jewish holy day of Yom Kippur. Allahu Akbar! Yes, they will help us achieve our victory and return the stolen land to us.
However, after a few days, these aspirations are shattered.
We are defeated again, ya Ikwan. Astaghfirullah.
Large Arab countries like Egypt and Syria, with far greater armies and weaponry, fought against a small Jewish nation. With Allah's help, we should have won this war easily, so why couldn't the Arabs achieve victory?
4 years later, the Egyptian leader Anwar Sadat makes his landmark visit to Jerusalem. He declares to the Knesset, Israel's parliament, that he is open to peace.
This is such a catastrophe. Anwar Sadat deserves to die for betraying the Palestinian struggle. Israel is Dar al-Harb, no peace until it becomes Dar al-Islam.
When Sinwar was a young man, he met Sheikh Ahmed Yassin, who at the time was one of the most influential Islamist leaders in Gaza.
Sheikh Ahmed Yassin, a member of the Muslim Brotherhood, was very charismatic. He was a small man confined to a wheelchair as a result of a spinal injury he suffered in a sporting accident as a boy, and he spoke in a high-pitched voice. Despite his disability, he built a fervent following. In the 1970s and 80s, as the founder of Mujama al-Islamiyya, or the Islamic Center, he established mosques, youth groups, schools, and clinics.
In December 1987, a spontaneous uprising began in Gaza and then throughout the West Bank that came to be known as the First Intifada, or shaking off. It was sparked after an Israeli vehicle struck and killed 4 Gazan men as they returned home from their daily work in Israel. Many young Palestinians were convinced that the accident had been a deliberate act of aggression and went into the streets, hurling stones and setting tires ablaze. The day after the incident, Yassin assembled a group of associates in a modest house in the al-Shati refugee camp in Gaza City, and they founded Hamas as an Islamist alternative to the PLO. By that summer, Hamas had released a charter declaring its commitment to eliminating Israel and denouncing what it called the Nazism of the Jews. Hamas was mainly dedicated to jihad against Israel.